I've got a library that's grown to over 300 hard copy books, and that's just part of it. I've got at least twice that many on CDs and DVDs and on my hard drive. And let me tell you, the history that is written about the Jesuit order and the Roman Catholic Church is so voluminous that when you come to realize just how well documented all this is, that's the reason why I won't stand toe to toe and argue with anybody. Because somebody that's willing to argue with me has obviously not done the research and is literally just making arguments for the sake of arguments, and my time's too valuable for that.
Well, Tom, I remember the first time I heard you. It was a cold winter night. I was up at Petoskey Walmart, sitting in the car, warming up and listening, thumbing through the band, and all of a sudden I heard you talking about the Catholic Church. I said, "Oh God, here's another one of these Catholic guys." And then I started listening, and all of a sudden it's like I realized that you weren't one of these Catholic guys, and I couldn't believe what you were saying and getting away with, because I've been spit on, I've had my life threatened, I've had people
Yeah,
get up in my face just because I dare to say something against the church.
sure. About once a month, I average a death threat on ham radio. There's a reason why I've chosen amateur radio and now internet with Inquisition Update and now this chat is to not have face-to-face confrontations with these people because they're violent. They come from the church militant. They have a 2,000-year history of using violence to propagate their religion, and they do not hesitate to use violence. They've been taught, they've been bred over centuries to rely upon violence and force to quench any opposition to that cult. And to kill a heretic is a meritorious work in the Roman Catholic Church for those who know the Roman. Now, first of all, you have to realize that the Roman Catholic Church in the United States is altogether different than the Roman Catholic Church in a Roman Catholic country. Roman Catholics in this country have had to live in a Protestant land where they're outnumbered 3 to 1 of Protestants. The Roman Catholic Church in this country minds its manners, and they're just biding their time, slowly gaining power to eventually overthrow the government. Now, they've reached a point of 25%, 1/4 of the population in the United States, and documented history reveals that once they've reached a level of 25%, that's when they start waging war. All this worry and fret about Islam, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Compared to Catholicism, Islam is like a club-wielding Cub Scout. Islam is just a fart in the skillet compared to Rome. And I tell people, if these were Muslims coming across the Arizona and California and New Mexico and Texas borders at the rate that the Mexicans are coming, this country would be unglued. But let me tell you, the Roman Catholic Mexicans that are coming over across this border poses an infinitely more dangerous threat than if these were radical Muslims coming across the border. And that goes right over people's heads. That's simply because they don't know the history of the Roman Catholic Church.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter's administration said 5.6 million illegals pass the southern border of the United States every year and are not caught. That's what his Justice Department released. Now, what's really interesting, when I was in school, in junior high school, they had predicted by 2010, because of the low birth rate in this country, that the population of the United States could drop down to 175 million. So my question is, how did we get 327 million?
As
Well,
I can recall, the population in 1994 was like 200, I think it was like 240, 280 million,
And our
because I
birth
was
rate
reading
is
stats.
right, and our birth rate has dropped so low that we're not replacing them. So our population should be dropping instead it's growing exponentially. The fact is that the vast majority of the illegals, and I remember the U.S. government back in the early 90s admitted to 66 to 70 million illegals. Now the figure's down to 11 million.
well, let me explain something to you that you'll never hear explained by anybody else. The Vatican has had control of our government forever, and you would ask the question, well, if the Pope has control of our government, why is birth control allowed in the country? The answer is because this is a heretic country. The Pope doesn't want Protestants breeding. The Pope wants Protestants to practice birth control and abortion and every other crime that kills people, drug abuse, racketeering, and that sort of thing. That's why our country is so lawless, because the mafia imports all the drugs and the weapons and the pornography, and the CIA together with the mafia. The CIA and the mafia work together, and they're both controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. The mafia is Sicilian. They're all Roman Catholics, and the controlling people of the CIA are Roman Catholics, Knights of Malta. The CIA director is Knight of Malta, and they work together to help destroy this heretic land, to kill heretics, and they certainly don't want Protestants breeding. So they give the birth control pill. So they make condoms available in the country. And of course, the priests, they forbid Catholics to use condoms and birth control pills. They even forbid them to use coitus interruptus. They want Catholics breeding. But the trouble is, the Catholics in this country are liberal. They've grown up in a quote-unquote liberal world, Protestant world, and they like their Protestant liberties. They like freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of the press, freedom to decide how big their families ought to be. And so they don't obey the Pope. And Catholics as well as Protestants are declining in population, at least not growing at the rate they should be, were the Pope really in charge of the people. Now, he's in charge of the government, but this explains why, with a Catholic White House and a Catholic Supreme Court and a Catholic Congress, they can't get an anti-abortion program passed, because the Pope doesn't want an abortion bill in this country. He wants us to be able to keep killing babies. They know that our economy can only survive if we have workers. And with the population dwindling of Protestants and liberal Catholics in this country, what they do are importing immigrants. Catholics, there you go, Catholic immigrants. First of all, there's no such thing as an illegal alien. Don't let Fox News teach you what words to use, because they have you indoctrinating your own mind. Think about it. These people coming across the border, is it true that they're illegal immigrants? Look, the only immigrant is a legal immigrant. Those who come across the border illegally are invaders. There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. So right off the bat, by the term they give you to use to describe these people, they've brainwashed you. See how easy they manipulate us? There is no such thing as an illegal immigrant. That's an oxymoron. Of course, we're all morons, so we buy any oxymoron that Fox News shoves down our throat, because we don't think for ourselves anymore. We let the boob tube think for us. These are not illegal immigrants. There is no such thing as an illegal immigrant. There are only immigrants and invaders. And 98% of those who are coming across that southern border are Spanish Roman Catholic, Central American Roman Catholic, Brazilian Roman Catholic, Chilean Roman Catholic. They're all Roman Catholics. And the Muslims who are coming to this country are subservient to the Pope. Islam is just the sword of the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church admits that Islam is the sword of the Roman Catholic Church. It was the Roman Catholic Church that commanded the Muslims to kill all the Christians in northern Africa, to wipe out the Ethiopians. That's what Muhammad was raised up to do. Why does the Pope, when he's running short of Catholics in Europe after the Crusades, risk the rest of his Roman Catholics to wipe out the Christians in northern Africa when he's got the Muslims over there to do it? And so they create Muhammad, their little prophet figure, then they incite a hatred between the Muslims and the Christians in northern Africa, and we let the Muslims do the papal proxy war to wipe out the Christians. Who cares if a Muslim dies killing a Bible believer? So the same thing is happening in this country. We have Spanish Roman Catholics coming across the border in droves. They're crusaders. They're working for the Pope. Tom Tancredo even admitted it. The government is fixing to wage war. They're fixing to have an ethnic cleansing in the United States like they had in Croatia. And they don't want any abortion bills passing in this country, because every baby that's born in this country is a potential enemy for the Pope, even if they're Catholic, because the Catholics are liberal in this country. They enjoy their Protestant liberty of freedom of speech, which is specifically damned in Roman Catholic canon law. They love their freedom of religion, which is specifically damned in Roman Catholic canon law. They love their freedom of conscience, which is specifically damned in Roman Catholic canon law. The Catholics in this country love Protestantism. They love the liberties of a Protestant nation. They like not to have the Pope making dictation of how they ought to live their lives and how many babies they ought to have and all this.